Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back to us. I am Mr. SoundOff, and this is SoundOff. It has been a little while since I joined you all. I know I had some things going on, and I'm trying to come back and making this into a full-time thing once again. So hopefully we are here today. I'm going to turn that on there, get a little bit brighter going on here. Got my Kings hat on here today. Going to start doing some more of these type of videos where we're not just doing live podcasts all the time, but hopefully this can work out with my schedule a little bit more, where I can make these things a little bit more regularly by doing some of these videos and just post them out there instead of doing so many of the live chats and live podcasts themselves. So like I said, thank you everybody for coming back. I hope you guys enjoyed your time away from me and enjoyed your time out there. We have a lot to go over that we can catch up with. We have so many things going on right now, and that's really what I want to go with this video here. This one is going to be about these NBA Finals. All right, we are going to have NBA Finals Game 5 here tonight. All right. Yes, I'm a Kings fan, but I've also been a Luka fan since before that draft even happened. I've been on record. I've told everybody since the beginning. I wish the Kings went and drafted Luka Doncic from the beginning. There, I thought that although we have DeAndre Fox and I love Foxy, I thought that it could have worked, making those two play together, and obviously it is working because the Dallas Mavericks have basically their version of Fox, Kyrie Irving working with Luka, right? And last year they had some struggles, even had a little bit of struggles this year at times, but they're obviously in the NBA Finals, right? So you obviously, and you need to have the other pieces fit around, all those kind of things. We're not going to go into all of those things there right now. But the point is I've been a Luka fan for years now. Wish he was in Sacramento here on my Kings team, and it's in turn made me a bit of a Dallas Mavericks fan as well. So I do like the Boston Celtics. I always kind of maybe thought of them as my Eastern Conference team. So I have my Sacramento Kings here in the West, and then the Boston Celtics in the East. Except for now, the Boston Celtics are going up against my man Luka, and so I'm rooting for him. Also, Jason Kidd being the coach of the Dallas Mavericks. Always been a Jason Kidd fan. Also coming from the Bay Area here as well. Jason Kidd did. So it's good to see him there. It's good to see Kyrie Irving kind of settle down some of the outside noise and just really going out there and putting together some great. A great season, really. A great season and great playoff run here. So, what I want to talk about is what's going on here with these games so far. What do you guys think is going to happen for the game tonight? Do you think we're going to have more than a game tonight, right? Now, in my eyes, here's the way I think about it. I think these Boston Celtics are one of the best teams all time in the NBA. Now, one of the best teams, that means what's here? Top 3, top 5, top 10, top 20. Yeah, they're probably, maybe somewhere in that 10 to 20 range. So, I'm not exactly putting them in, the best team of all time or the best, top 3 or top 5. But there has been NBA championships going on for quite a while, and there's been some great teams that did not win the NBA championships as well, right? And this team, I would rate them higher than a bunch of those NBA champions or a bunch of those NBA teams that maybe went to the championships and lost. That last year, the Warriors dynasty, really of that run where everybody got injured, that was a great team. That was a great team that all of a sudden Clay and Durant gets injured. Where would I put that team exactly? But that was a phenomenal team. What was it? Our 0-2 Sacramento Kings, phenomenal team. I'm not sure where I'd put them at. They'd be like maybe top 40 or 50 teams or something like that kind of thing there if I had to really start just going through and ranking every single year, right? And they're a team that did not even make it to the NBA Finals, right? So the whole point there is some great teams that have been out there, and these Boston Celtics are one of those teams. So 62 wins in the NBA season this year, number 1 defensive team in the NBA. They have multiple scores. I thought it was a huge loss for the Milwaukee Bucks to give up Drew Holiday. I think he pushed that Milwaukee Bucks team over the top, and I cannot believe they let him go and especially go to the Boston Celtics. That pushed the Celtics over the top. My thing with the Celtics has been for years now. I think that Jason Tatum is a phenomenal talent and could be an MVP, player. Could be an MVP. It's the NBA, so a lot of players make it to the Hall of Fame. But he will probably be a Hall of Fame player, possible MVP, possible multiple time MVP. But is he a shooting guard? Is he a small forward? Is he a point guard? And what I feel like the Boston Celtics have done, they've had so many defensive coaches in there through their run throughout the years. Sprinkled in with Brad Stevenson in there, that and Brad was barely there, and he came from this college program, spreading it around and everything like that as well. It somehow went by the wayside, or they said, no, this is how we just want to really focus our team to be. For years now, Jason Tatum is the de facto point guard. I mean, if you watch every single game, how many times does Drew Holiday, who's actually their point guard, take the ball all the way up the court and then run the offense through him and set up a play and then, drive and kick out, right? Drive a little bit and dish off to somebody over here. Wait for the play to develop and then start the play going, right? Most time they come up, Drew Holiday's already over there in the corner, which is kind of crazy because Drew Holiday was never really just a stand-up shooter. Right, from the outside, he's not a great 3-point shooting player. He's great on defense. I've always liked Drew Holiday a whole bunch. He's really, really good at a whole lot of things, but he's not your prototypical 3-point shooter who's just waiting out there in the wing, waiting to shoot the ball. All right, if anything, he's more of a point guard, and the Boston Celtics use him less as one. Right, so who do they keep using as their point guard? Well, it's Jason Tatum. And they've used Jason Tatum as their point guard for years. But the problem is Jason Tatum is not a point guard. Jason Tatum should not be their point guard. And I feel like it was unfair to Jason Tatum that he was being used as their point guard. And so Jason Tatum would go into these games and these series, and maybe he can make it through regular season just fine, right? Where a team is not focusing on just how to stop just and only him. And they don't have enough time to care about how they're going to stop just him, right? During the regular season, you have sometimes back-to-back nights, maybe a day or two off. You're playing the next team, you're traveling, all those kind of things there. You don't have time to make up a full itinerary of how you're going to game plan to stop him on being a point guard and what you're going to want to do to focus on him. So I think he's able to kind of sneak through the regular season as being that for the Boston Celtics, right? Now all of a sudden he can come up, he can go ahead and shoot, he can dish off of that. Drew can get his shots in, Jaylen Brown can get his shots in. They have too many good players on that Celtics team. It's incredible, right? But all of a sudden you get into the playoffs in these series, and teams do have time to game plan for you, all right, and they can stop you. And so what you see is more turnovers from Jason Tatum in the playoffs. Right. Sometimes it comes down to a crucial play and he makes the wrong play, right? Or a team is just knows what his tendencies are and know how to stop him, and he's not ready for it because he really, I don't believe, has been coached exactly for it. All right. It's kind of like the Chicago Bears, right? Chicago Bears can draft quarterbacks over and over again, and hopefully, Caleb Williams can break that mold for the Chicago Bears, but you can keep drafting quarterbacks over and over again. If you don't have the right coaches, if you don't have the right philosophy in your building to coach those quarterbacks, then it doesn't matter if you keep drafting quarterbacks. They're going to constantly run into the same problems, right? You're going to be just in this end of the cycle, right? I don't know if the Boston Celtics really have had the guys in the building, although they did bring in Sam Cassell this year, so that did help out, I think, with Jason Tatum some this year as well. But again, they also brought in Drew Holiday, so I think that's the bigger deal. Anyways, leaving Tatum as being that point guard, if he wasn't really coached up for it, if he really is the shooting guard / small forward, playing point guard and bringing the ball up. I mean, if you look, he's not on the roster as a point guard, but if you see who brings up the ball the most every single game, and generally who has the most assists for the Boston Celtics every game, is Tatum, right? almost every single other team out there, the point guard is the guy that has the most assists, except for if you're Jokic on Denver, right? And even then, there's games where Murray takes that over, or if Murray's out, whoever's being the point guard, that game still has the most assists on the team. So, anyways, it's a pretty rare thing there. So I do believe, again, it's a little unfair to Tatum to force that upon him, and I believe the Celtics have done that. And I think that you get into some of these series and you see he's working so hard to be the point guard out of position that then it affects his shooting numbers, it affects his scoring numbers. He has more turnovers, he gets more of the blame, he has more of the pressure on him. Also, generally in a lot of these series too, Tatum does pretty much always do a very good to a phenomenal job of playing defense still, which I do commend him for in this series. That even though Tatum has had his worst shooting series, well, I should say second worst shooting series in a playoff series in his career, he has still played very good defense, right? So that's what's going on there with the Celtics in this matchup here, and we'll go into the Mavericks here in a second, but we're going to go into first what I think is going to happen with this game here tonight. Right, the Dallas Mavericks beat the brakes off the Celtics the other night in Dallas. Just, I mean, you could see it from like 5 minutes in, 5 to 10 minutes in, you're like, okay, they're starting to pull away, and you're always worried, like, okay, the Celtics could pull us off. They have all this 3-point shooting. They can still play defense. They've won all these other games. They've come back. All those kind of things there. But you can see there was something where it was like maybe the effort wasn't fully there, and also Kyrie coming to the table as well, right? Showing up, and all of a sudden, if Kyrie's there playing with Luka, those two nuclear weapons going off at the same time is too much for any team. And there was some stretch in that game where it was like Luka and Kyrie had like 48 of like the 55 points or something like that for the Mavericks. It was crazy, right? Crazy stuff from them going on, right? Are those two going to go off again like that? Kyrie has not had a whole lot of success there in Boston, so that's going to be tough to see if he does. I think Luka does in basically every game. I mean, he got 29 in 3 quarters the other night. So Luka is almost, pen him in for like 30 to 40 points every single night. We haven't really seen one of those 50, 60 point nights, but the 30 to 40 or something like that is like a given with him, right? So it'll be fun to see there. I think the Celtics are going to play harder, right, in this game here tonight. I think it's going to be emotions involved as well. It's going to be back in Boston. The fans are going to be on Kyrie. Fans are going to be, bringing that energy for the Celtics as well. I think it's going to be a much closer game, no doubt about it. I don't think either one of these teams is going to be winning by 20, 30, 40 points. That's hopefully not, right? But here's my prediction for the game here tonight, and that is that yes, right, by the shade of this my mic here tonight, you'll see that the Dallas Mavericks do pull off another victory in the Garden, right? And you're going to see this game go back to Dallas for a Game 6 and really get interesting there. And we're going to finally have the series that a lot of people thought we were going to have going into this series, which was going to be possibly one of the best series of all time, right? And if this series goes to a Game 7, right, I think it could go down as one of the best series of all time, right? You have this great Boston Celtics team, and then you have these, what do they say, the best shooting backcourt ever in NBA history, the best offensive backcourt in Luka and Kyrie, and I just love how the rest of that Dallas Mavericks team has come together. And really something that the rest of the NBA is going to look at, because the Kings actually have it a little bit different, but not a whole lot of teams these days have that dominant center or power forward, that big man up front. And I'm not necessarily saying DeMontis is like that dominant guy. He's not Shaq or something like that. That just takes over a game and no one can do anything with him. But he could do different things than Shaq even did, right? And they could run a lot of those plays through DeMontis, right? Plus he's like a 20-20 machine for you, so he's still getting you good points. His shooting percentage is good, rebound, all those kind of things there. Anyways, that's different with the Kings and the Nuggets, and there's some other teams out there again with big guys as well. But I think you're going to see this with a lot of teams. You go out there and you get defensive guys that can shoot threes and can jump. If you got 3 or 4 or 5 of those guys in your team, right, then all of a sudden you need to have a good point guard or a good point guard and shooting guard, some guys that you could take over. Again, a Jaylen Brown, a Jason Tatum, a Luka, a Kyrie, somebody seems to have, and then all of a sudden you just put around them a whole bunch of guys that you can throw a lot of the ball up to, right, that can jump out of the building, all right, who can play defense, and when they're not running towards the rim for a lob or for a rebound, could be out there and just shooting the three, right? That's the name of the game. I think you're going to see a lot of NBA teams go towards that philosophy, I think, coming up here in the years to come. Now, how many teams can get those guys? Like, they might be going for that philosophy, and their guys can't jump as tall, as high. Their guys aren't as good as three-point shooting, all those kind of things there, and all of a sudden it doesn't really look like that. But there might have been the plan, right? That might have been the goal, is to still go that route. So, Dallas, good-looking team, and really, for as good of an overall team as the Boston Celtics are, like 6, 7, 8 deep, and even deeper, but those guys generally just don't get into the playoffs as much. The Mavericks could be right there with at least they're like 5, 6, 7. I think they're a little bit lower on everyone, and Luka and Kyrie are higher. Right, kind of brings their whole teams together. Right, so 2 different kind of philosophies with these 2 teams, which is why it's so interesting to watch them play against each other. It's a fun series so far to watch, and I hope it keeps going. Right, so I do believe my prediction is that the Dallas Mavericks do pull off the upset here tonight, do win against the Boston Celtics, and what's going to be really interesting to see is actually, for as good as their offense has been. With Dallas, and it's been kind of shaky or something like that there, but really what the turn on was defense, and early on those first couple games too, their defense wasn't horrible. Actually, if you look at it, I mean, like, Boston wasn't scoring 120, 130, 140 like they can. All right. Early on, Dallas was not shooting the ball particularly well. Luka was not getting assists, not because he wasn't trying, but because no one was actually hitting the shots. All right. So they started hitting their shots and they started playing defense. And so, if you keep the Celtics to around 100, all right, you're definitely in the game. All right. If you're keeping them around 100, even though the Boston Celtics are the number 1 team, I think that Dallas is playing more confidently now on offense. All right. So if they keep them around 100. Dallas is winning that game. If they keep them around 110, I'm still going to go ahead and give the edge to Dallas. Right? If all of a sudden they get 115, 120, right, for Boston, then I'll go ahead and give that game to Boston, because Boston can come out and shoot the lights out as well. Right? I think the numbers back it as well. If they're on, they can beat any team out there, which is why I think it's so tough for any team, including the Dallas Mavericks here in these finals, to beat them 4 games in a row, is because you could be Dallas and you could be on, and you could be scoring 120, and you could still lose by 10 or 15, 20 points to the Celtics if they're on as well that night. All right, and for the Boston Celtics to go 5, 6, 7 games in a 7-game series of never having one single night where they're on and shooting at their crazy clips that they could do from the 3-point line, all right, is tough, right? Can it happen? Absolutely it can. Right? So I do think that tonight Dallas wins this game. I still believe Boston is going to win this series because of some of the facts that I just told you. The full-on team game, they shoot the 3 too good. They can't keep having poor shooting nights, and they can play defense really well. So all of a sudden, one night they play defense really well. Dallas, scores 100, 105, and Boston could shoot the lights out, and it could be 140 to 105. That could happen any one of these nights here, all right? Hasn't happened yet, and that way. It happened the other way with Dallas, and so we know they got the firepower to them. I think Dallas is going to be riding high off that. I think, although the atmosphere is going to be there, we have to see if Dallas did figure something out a little bit more with Boston. If their playing style is doing it as a team thing, or if it's Luka and Kyrie. If it's their two players outshining the players in the Boston Celtics, right? Which takes me to my next point with this series: Finals MVP. I thought it was sad that Jerry West died the other day, and at first I actually had not heard the news by the time of the NBA Finals game, and then I saw them showing Jerry West up on the screen there, and I got to thinking, wow, this is crazy that they're showing Jerry West here in this game. Is this because maybe they're setting us up for Luka winning the MVP on possibly a losing team, and then unfortunately, seconds later that I see the bad news, the unfortunate news that Jerry West passed away, but it got me thinking that to start with, and then I think that was game 3, and then they go out there and end up losing that game, and then all of a sudden game 4, obviously they blew out the Celtics, but it's had me thinking. There's only been one Finals MVP that played on a losing side, which was Jerry West, right? Could this be the year that it could be Luka Doncic, right? And they talk about LeBron almost won it once or twice on a losing side as well, even in some of those Cleveland years versus the Warriors, because those Warriors teams were just stacked and so good. But LeBron actually did have some very good series in there. But Luka could be in the running for them. What does that mean? What kind of numbers does he have to put up for something like that to happen? And it's a very real possibility that Luka could have that. Right now, in my eyes, it's Jaylen Brown number 1 for the Finals MVP, right? And then Luka would be number 2. Then you'd have Jason Tatum at 3, and I might put Drew Holiday even at 4, maybe Kyrie. I mean, Kyrie did not have great games those first 3 games. Really had one phenomenal game in Game 4, so I would go with Drew Holiday at number 4, and Kyrie at number 5. The longer this series goes, though, if the Mavericks win tonight, and let's say Luka puts up 35, right? And it has another triple-double, another basically typical Luka game. And Jaylen Brown goes for, what he's been going for, averaging 20.8, 4.8 rebounds, 4.8 assists. If he does that again, and Luka wins another game and puts up another triple-double like that, I mean, Luka right now is at 29.5, 8 rebounds, 5.8 assists per game. So all of a sudden, Luka could be number 1 in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, I believe steals per game as well. He could be number 1 in all the things. And you would say, well, I don't think we can give it to the guy where their team won 1 game. But could you give it to Luka if their team wins 2 games, 3 games? Force it to a Game 7? Obviously, if they win the whole thing, if Kyrie goes off, it's going to be Luka winning it for the Mavericks if they are able to come back and make this thing go to a Game 7 and win the whole thing. But if they do not, I think every game this goes closer towards a 7, it gets more likely that Luka is going to win the Finals MVP, actually, right? So if they win this game tonight here, right, and Luka gets a triple-double tonight, and Luka gets a triple-double in their next game, even if they lose that Game 6, and Jaylen's still at 20, almost 5 and 5, and Luka's at 30, 10 and 10, let's say, I don't know how you can't give that MVP to Luka Doncic, right? So Something to look out for. Now, Jason Tatum also, further the series goes along, could he finally correct what's been going on? Could he all of a sudden, turn around his poor shooting percentage? And could it be some games where it's Tatum versus Luka and Kyrie, and Tatum takes over, and all of a sudden he climbs up that ladder? Sure thing, yeah, absolutely. And all of a sudden he can maybe get up there to number one or something like that as well, and win that for the Boston Celtics being the MVP. Kyrie, at this point, Kyrie has to, again, this series would basically have to go 7. I think the Mavericks would have to win this series, and Kyrie would have to have, Luka's already shooting, already getting like 30 points a game. So Kyrie would be having to get like 35 to 45 points a game every one of these games here, 5, 6, and 7, with the Mavericks winning for Kyrie to win it. Jrue Holiday, he's been playing great defense. The points are really never going to be there with him. Assists per game 3.8. By the way, to go back to my numbers from earlier and talk about Jason Tatum. The point guard for the Boston Celtics, Jrue Holiday, is at 3.8 assists per game. Jason Tatum's at 6.3. He has double the assists of the point guard, right? That just shows they don't use Jrue Holiday as a point guard. And for years, I've been saying that the Celtics need a point guard. Like I thought Chris Paul would have been great to go to the Boston Celtics a couple years ago. 3, 4, 5 years ago, Boston Celtics might have had another couple championships if they had an actual point guard running things there, dishing it over to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown shooting. Okay, but anyways, that's not where they're at, and we'll have to see here exactly where this gets to. But yeah, I think Jrue Holiday could also maybe sneak in there to possibly win MVP. Because Jaylen Brown did not have a good game 4. If he continues to struggle, that knocks him down. If Jason Tatum continues to struggle like he has for most of the series, it's going to keep knocking him down. And so all of a sudden you might look at it and be like, the guy with the best shooting percentage, the guy that didn't turn the ball over the most, the guy that kept getting the rebounds, the guy that fed the whole team, the guy that played the best defense, was actually Jrue Holiday. It might be the Andre Iguodala Award, right? Where Jrue Holiday kind of sneaks in and wins this thing as the Finals MVP. But for now, I got Jaylen Brown at number 1, Luka at number 2, Jason Tatum at 3, Kyrie at 4, and Jrue Holiday at 5. And again, maybe I'll switch that. I'll go Jrue Holiday at 4, Kyrie at 5. Yeah. And we'll see here. I would be very interested to see how this game goes tonight, win or lose, if Luka ends up winning the Finals MVP here. Okay? So, tell me, guys, what you think of the game tonight, the series so far, what I was just talking about for the Finals MVP, what you guys predict for the series in the long run. Again, I do believe the Boston Celtics are going to win the series in the end. Boston, oh, by the way, I didn't bring this up before, but Boston is known during this Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum run they've been on for years now of throwing in one clunker home game pretty much every playoff series. All right, for years now. They did not do a game of 1 or game 2, which is why I also believe that it could be tonight. Right? They already showed it in the series in game 3. They went to Dallas when Dallas thought, okay, here we go. We're flipping the courts. We're going to have home court advantage. We're going to win this game. And Boston still took it to them and beat them there in Dallas for that game 3. I think if they're showing up tonight in Boston and take this to a game 6, that's going to be a crazy game 6. But I actually then would finally take the Boston Celtics to go ahead and win that game 6 in Boston to win the NBA Finals. If Dallas wins that one and it goes to game 7, I'm all about Dallas to win this whole series. Back in Boston, game 7, all pressure on Boston again. Again, they had one of the worst, not one of the worst, but they had like 3 times as many losses at home or something like that this season than they did on the road. I mean, it was crazy numbers for what the Boston Celtics actually play like at home compared to on the road. So, very possible that Dallas could win this thing in Boston, and Boston would have to win this thing in Dallas, right? So, game's going to be starting up here soon. hope you guys all enjoy the broadcast here today. I'll be getting this out here as soon as possible, and hope to be coming back with more of these quicker videos and short videos, and then some live podcasts again as well. Thanks, guys, for joining us here on SoundOff. I'm Mr. SoundOff. Thank you.